In the still night, whispers float. In the quiet, heartbeat slow. No clash, no roar, just silence. In the shadows, battles won. I see through foggy veils. No swords to raise, no cries to wail. Victory's touching ghostly hue. Darkness glows a pale blue. Silent shadows trace the ground. In this silence we are bound. Greatest victory found with ease. No need to fight, no need to cease. Creeping through the twisted wood, echoes shards where warriors stood. Just a breath, just a wish. No more war, no final fist. Wisdom whispers in the night. Strength in peace, no need to fight. Winners walk in soft embrace. No battle scars, no deadly taste.
Alright, hello everybody. This is Alan from Mr. Bitey's Games and Hobbies.
And I'm Jace from Nematon Studios.
Alright, sound seems about equal, just making sure. So, I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our 9 p.m. stream. I know we usually do these in the mornings. Again, I apologize. But hopefully y'all still have some fun as well, and try not to be as tired as I am. This is way past my bedtime. Alright, I'm gonna turn my sound down on that so I don't hear myself. Alright, so, again, my name's Alan. I'm the head designer of The Shattered World from Mr. Bitey's Games and Hobbies. No more shenanigans. Nappy shenanigans. Nappigans. Jace is with me as well, our lead graphic designer, as well as the person working on our web integration. Everything you see on Foundry is their hard work, as well as putting together our beginner box for when that comes out, and the adversary files.
And editing and overall mechanics. Alan is the brains behind the original concept. As
Yep.
always, doing a fantastic job.
Yep, I'm the mechanics guy, the creating items guy, creating rules guy, the I just need a nap from all this guy. Yeah. So, past couple streams we've gone over character creation and we've gone over tactics mode, which is where you do what most people consider your standard tabletop RPG play. That's where, you bribe the town guard, that's where you slay the dragon, where you invade the office building, all of that fun. Today, we're going to be doing a couple different things. Predominantly, we're going to be going over vehicle combat, because what is a modern fantasy game without vehicle combat? We're going to be going over how to stabilize and close tears, which are those rips into different pocket dimensions that we discussed. And we're going to be going over navigation mode, which is how you explore and discover the world beyond the tears. So, we are going to be starting in just a second. I see a couple people have logged on. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Get yourself a snack. It's going to be a long night.
Yes, it is. We are planning to run for about 2 hours, which again is about 9 hours past my bedtime, but that's neither here nor there. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Previous videos are up on both our on our Twitch and YouTube. So you can get caught up on other other aspects of our game there. This is, I just like to reiterate, because there have been some questions in the past, this is a standalone system. This is not a third-party D&D, third-party Pathfinder, World of Darkness, whatever. This is a standalone 2D12 modern fantasy system. So, first things first, we're going to be going over vehicle combat, which is lots of fun. We've got a basic road pulled up here. Nothing's fancy. Obviously, when you're running games, it will be a lot more fancy than that, but... And of course, now it closes on me. But, so, vehicle combat. Vehicle combat is handled a little different from normal mode in two main senses. Number one, all of your characters are acting together as a crew. So, one person, the pilot of the vehicle you are all in, for this demonstration, the PCs are all going to be in this, the sedan, the Falcon, and they're going to be attacking two individuals driving the Swiftblade motorcycles. So, excuse me. Alright, so.
We should mention up first. I'm going to show you show players.
Ah, yes. Thank you.
I've been hard at work working with Foundry, doing these journal entries and things like that. We've gotten a lot accomplished within the past week alone.
Yes. So, couple things about vehicle combat. Number one, as I said, everybody is assigned a crew role. So when you hop in your vehicle, one person is the vehicle operator, the driver, the pilot, depending on the vehicle. Some people may be gunners. Some people may be hackers, messing with the navigation systems of their opponent, hacking into nearby security cameras, etc. The mechanic, their job is to either create or improve improvised weapons, jury-rigged weapons, for others to use, or repair the vehicle and vehicle systems itself. The tactician is exactly what it sounds like. They can either improve their allies or debuff their enemies. The navigator is again exactly what it sounds like. They can reduce the damage the crew takes from hazards, or they can find the shortcuts and temporarily improve the speed of the vehicle, letting you get places you really shouldn't. The vehicle operator sets the initiative and the max speed the vehicle can travel in a turn. So, one of the other things, very important, actions per turn. It should be highlighting in just a second. Awesome. Just a little bit of lag, so I'm making sure. But, in normal mode, as you may recall, ferocity determines your actions per turn. In vehicle combat, it doesn't really matter how angry you are or how much you want to hurt your opponent. Your hand-eye coordination, your reflexes, those are vastly more important. So while in vehicle combat, your agility is going to determine your actions per turn. All roles act at the same time. For gameplay purposes, you can choose, alright, vehicle operator has to roll first, so they get initiative, that's set in stone, but we know there are dangers, so we want the navigator to roll first, and we want the mechanic to roll last so that they can repair whatever. Alright, any questions on what I've gone over so far? I know I've just thrown a lot at you really quick in the span of like 3 minutes. Give just a minute for responses, and then if not, we will move on. Alright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, cool. So, let's go ahead. Our crew, or I'm going to go over the actual vehicle stat block real quick. So, all vehicles are set up the same. This is a 5-seater, a sedan, a more sports car sedan, but a sedan. So, we've got the name of the vehicle, Falcon. Its class, it is a sedan class. Its wealth cost, that's how much it costs to purchase the vehicle. As mentioned in other streams, the default assumption in the Shattered World is that every adventuring group has access to at least one vehicle. You still have to pay for it. You don't just get handed it for free. But the assumption is that whether all of you pooling some money together and getting one, getting an old beater, whatever, you will have a vehicle. So, armor. As a reminder, armor in the Shattered World is damage reduction. If you've played other systems, anytime you would take damage, it's reduced by the armor value. So, the Falcon provides +2 armor, both to itself, as well as any occupants. So if you're the driver, you got +2 armor above what you normally do. If you're the gunner, you got +2 armor, etc. Structure is the item equivalent of stamina. Seats is the number of people that it can safely hold. Max speed. This will take a second to explain. This is the amount of squares this vehicle can move in an action. Here is why that is important. When your pilot, your vehicle operator, rolls initiative, that also determines the max speed they can move in a round. So, the Falcon has a max speed of 12. That's how much it can move in an action. Say we're rolling for initiative, and my vehicle operator gets 20 on their initiative. Turn 1, or action 1, they want to move. So they move 12. They have 8 move left. Action 2, they want to move again. They can only move 8 squares, up to the 20 they rolled. Even though the vehicle is capable of more, the pilot is not. Does that make sense to everybody? Alright, so maneuverability is the amount you can turn. So, let me zoom in a little bit. We've got our vehicle right here. No, I don't want to draw eclipse. Draw freehand. Alright. It is facing this way. Maneuverability of 3. 1, 2, 3. Each point, like on a compass, is one for the purpose of maneuverability. While you're moving, that's the amount, your maneuverability, that you can turn as part of that action. So, smaller vehicles will have a much higher maneuverability. The Swiftblade motorcycles, for example, will have a much higher mobility than our sports car. That's where they excel. And then, just like how weapons and armor, God, can be modified, so too can vehicles. We won't go in depth into the modification system tonight. We've just got a lot to go over, but they can be. And then maneuverability. The Falcon comes with no innate weapons. And for defenses, it comes with an advanced navigation system. And then modifications 5. Modification slots are handled the exact same, whether it's weapons, armor, outfits, vehicles, etc. The vehicles have several different types: body, navigation, wheels, etc. You can only have one modification per type, and then each modification will take a number of slots. The max this can have is 5. Simple, easy. So, let's put that in action. Let's erase those lines. So, we are going to do a real quick vehicle combat. This is just going to be quick, down and dirty. Nothing special. So, we are going to have first our the Falcon roll, our PCs. So, they got a total of 23. Again, that means that the whole crew for the sedan operates on an initiative of 23, and the max speed they can go this round is 23 squares. For the Swiftblade, we'll have them both operate off the same initiative, and that'll be 19.
Not the best drivers.
Not the best drivers. So I went with 5 and 6 because, again, that's average person. That's somebody with a agility of 3, which is about average, and then a vehicle use of 3, which is competent. Not great, competent. So, Swiftblade, or I'm sorry, God, the sedan will be going first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then they are going to partially move. Or I'm sorry, turn this way. And then turn again and go straight, basically ramming and sideswiping this Swiftblade motorcycle. So, ram is something that the pilot can do at any point where their path intersects with a vehicle, with an opposing vehicle. They would make an agility plus vehicle operation check versus the target's agility plus evasiveness. So we remember that was 2d12 plus 6. we'll say theirs is only +4. So 13. So they hit. What does that mean? Well, that means the vehicle does damage based on their ranks in vehicle use plus the number of squares they moved this turn. So they started here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 when they sideswiped. So they do 8 points of damage. However, they take damage because they ran into the vehicle equal to the motorcycle's armor. So, let's pop back to our compendium real quick. Dramatic rules. Vehicles. Our Swiftblade has no
0.
armor.
Yep.
So, vehicle takes, or we take 0 damage, and we do 8. This only had 6 structure. So, this vehicle is destroyed. Did you want to turn it invisible or just delete?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It's invisible.
Right as I asked, it turned invisible because that's how I roll. So
And the car.
yes. So that would be the vehicle operator's turn. Gunner would be next, and that works just the same as in tactics mode. Gunner is a gunner. They're gonna shoot. So that, without getting, without throwing like 100 vehicles, whatever, that is the basics of vehicle combat. All checks, again, are handled the exact same. Roll 2d12, plus your appropriate skill, plus your appropriate attribute, and then any other miscellaneous modifiers.
Mind you, these are base vehicles without any modifications, and that's going to change things dramatically.
Yes.
Whether your vehicle is modified or their vehicles are modified.
Yes. Sample modifications include more mundane things like nitrous boosts and things like that. And it can also include more exotic. One of the modifications that we're working on, we're still balancing it, but it's basically a gravitational tractor beam. So you can lock onto a target and pull them back towards you as long as they're within a certain range. Things like that. We're also working on some quote-unquote jump modifications where you can leap across broken roads, things like that, etc., etc.
All the fun tools.
All the fun tools. So, any questions before I move on? Next up, we're going to be going over closing and stabilizing a tear. 3, 2, 1. Alright, awesome. So, next up is closing and stabilizing a tear. And for that, we're going to switch back to our favorite pizzeria.
Said I changed it. Let me activate it. Okay.
Perfect. So, very, very simplistically, closing a tear is basically a boss rush. So, when you get to a tear, when a tear is created, let me back up. When a tear is created, one of the things that I almost said navigator, God, the narrator has to do, the game master, the narrator, has to do is determine the resonance of the portal. You remember the destinies we've gone over in character creation and the other streams. portal or tears resonate with those same energies. So when you create your tear, you would say, okay, this tear has a resonance of the Magician 2 and the Tower 5, etc. Tears that lead into higher powered areas will have a higher resonance. And then each destiny ability that you have as a player counts as one resonance. So if I have purchased 2 abilities in the Tower Destiny, I would have a resonance of Tower 2. Now this raises an interesting question. What if I make a tear that has a resonance that my players just don't have? Well, you have 2 ways to deal with that. Number 1, NPCs. NPC enhanced, you can absolutely have count. Number 2, and what's more than likely going to happen, are what are called resonance objects or enhanced objects. Basically, these are items that have been affected by the tear and now have that resonance. So just like a player can have Tower 2, this item can have Tower 2. You create it. It will appear at some point within, typically within the building that the tear is in. Players can find it, and then when they get to the tear, that will count towards the total resonance. So, once all of you get to the tear, closing or stabilizing the tear is handled the exact same way. Once you have gathered enough PCs, NPCs, and or resonance objects to match the resonance, you have to be within 3 squares. One player starts the ritual to stabilize or close the tear. This takes 20 minutes in game. To do this, they would make mental acuity plus knowledge, and they must have the occult focus in order to make this roll. Each player with occult focus and knowledge can say they are assisting and gives that roll a +1 bonus. Now, this is outside of combat. Each PC that assists must have a matching destiny or the occult focus. So I misspoke earlier. Say I'm playing the big dumb fighter and Jace is playing our occult specialist, and this tear has strength resonance and I don't have any knowledge, but I have the strength destiny, I can still say I am assisting and give that +1 bonus.
The universe says you're cool.
Yes. So, the DC to manipulate the tear is 12 plus the total resonance of the tear. So, if it has a resonance of Strength 2 and Tower 1, that's a total resonance of 3, which means the DC is 15. Every minute, the head occultist makes this check outside of combat. Degree of success and degree of failure. Every degree of success, you reduce the time remaining by an additional minute. And then degree of failure, you increase the time by an additional minute. So, once the remaining time hits 0, The occultist may choose right then and there to either stabilize or close the tear. If the remaining time ever hits 40 minutes, the tear immediately destabilizes, disappears, and deals damage equal to its resonance to all characters and objects within 12 squares. This damage bypasses all armor and all other forms of damage reduction. Right to the face. Now,
Big bada boom.
big bada boom. And again, all characters and objects. That includes the floor you're standing on, that includes the crap scattered around, etc. Now, during my description, I mentioned combat a lot. All of these roles are for outside of combat. Why? Well, if you remember from our discussion on what tears were, nobody knows if tears are creating adversaries, if adversaries are coming through the tear, or if they're being summoned by the tear. But adversaries always show up, and it's just the same here. Once you start trying to stabilize the tear, enemies will show up. So, closing a tear during combat is the same as outside combat with a couple changes. First, the check to stabilize the tear costs 2 actions per turn and must be made every turn. Second, adversaries can appear anywhere in the immediate area of the tear, but never within 5 squares of the tear itself. If an adversary makes it to within 2 squares of the tear, it immediately adds 1 minute to the remaining time of the ritual. Every turn it spends within 2 squares of the tear adds another minute. So, take out adversaries quick. Experienced teams typically have at least one member skilled with engineering and construction, the craft structural specialty, to set up makeshift barricades, other battlefield preparations. These can often mean the difference between life and death.
Pays to do a bit of planning beforehand.
Yes. It is assumed that once you get to a tear, you'll have about a 10-15 minute window before you need to start doing things. 10 minutes because that's the length of a tactical pause, and then 5 minutes to do what you want. That's the basic assumption for this. Now, obviously, every situation will be different when you sit down and play, yada, yada, yada. But that is the basic assumption. So, when we look at the pizzeria, we know that enemies cannot appear within 5 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means they can start to appear here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this area they cannot appear in. But 1, 2, 1, 2. So
2, 3, 4, 5. That might be a little too big.
Well, so basically this area in between the two is where you want to keep the enemies. Try to stop them from getting to here. Otherwise, very quickly the portal or the tear can destabilize, and then everybody takes that damage to the face.
Ideally, shore up those
Yep.
entrances, windows,
So,
things like that.
yes, good places, again, using this as an example, taking some of the tables, making a barricade there, making a barricade there. Now you've got cover to hide behind. Now you've got ways to stop enemies from getting to you. They can still go up and over. Later, more powerful enemies will have rare abilities such as teleportation. Obviously, shut
Or,
them down first. Go ahead.
or maybe larger.
Or maybe larger. But this tear stabilization was basically set up, like I said, as a boss rush, as a tower defense. And that is really the only difference. If you've played tactical mode, then you know how to do this. Remember, stabilizing the tear must be done every minute if you are out of combat, and every turn if you are in. The occultist in combat must dedicate 2 actions. If you are assisting, you must dedicate at least 1 action. Otherwise, do what you can. So, does that make sense? Alright, we are going through this quicker than I actually thought we would.
Or quicker.
Yep. The benefit of a less active night. But I did remember to set this to go through to the thing, right? Yeah, I'm sure I did. So, alright. Lastly, we're going to go over navigation mode.
That'll probably take us a little bit.
Yes, it will.
All right. Activating that one.
Perfect, thank you. So, once you go through a tear, there are no GPS satellites, right? There are no maps, there are no almanacs, there's nothing like that. The only way to discover where anything is to get walking or riding in your vehicle, etc. Alright, that is loading. It will take just a minute, no worries. But once you go through a tear, the world is divided into territories. Territories are a 15-mile square consisting of 1 to 3 landmarks, various points of interest in the territory. Landmarks can be anything of note. Territories can basically be anything of note. As I mentioned in other streams, each tear opens to its own pocket dimension. That tear may open to a vast idyllic forest. It may open to a ruined city filled with architecture that doesn't make sense. It may open to the cold vacuum of space. Take your pick. So, once you've got your territory set out, you as the narrator will basically go through and make your territories. I've got a couple set up here, just samples. So this territory is known as the Mystic Caverns. This is an underground area. And then the overall DC we set at 28. We'll go over the DC a little bit more when I switch to roles, but just remember DC 28. So this place has 3 landmarks.
as you are exploring, you will get exploration points. Once you've got enough exploration points, the first landmark, and then the second, and then the third will be discovered. You don't have to spend the exploration points. It happens automatically. So, with each landmark, some of them will have special abilities, some of them won't. For example, Luminescent Fungus Cave is the first landmark in this sample Mystic Caverns. It's a cavern adorned with bioluminescent fungi casting an eerie glow. Once this territory has been annexed to a settlement, which again we'll go over that at the end or during the rolls, any rituals performed here are at -3 cost to a minimum of 1. Crystal Lagoon. Resting for the day in this location heals 1 additional wound. Wounds are traditionally very hard to heal, or very slow to heal compared to stamina. So having something that just heals an additional 1 for free is a solid boon. And then Veil of Shadows, etc. Excuse me. When you design your territory, again, pick 1 to 3, set them up. You'll see the value. So we have to get 8 exploration points in order to find the Luminescent Fungus Cave. We need 15 for the Crystal Lagoon and 20 to find the final Veil of Shadows. Once you've found all 3, then the hex has been the territory has been fully explored, and you're able to claim it in settlement mode. Now, rolls. Just like in vehicle combat, which is one of the reasons why I went over that first, just like in vehicle combat, you don't act individually. You act as a team. You're assigned a role in your expedition, and you fulfill that role. Everybody rolls at the same time, etc. Not every role needs to be filled. If you don't fill that role, you don't get the benefit of that role. Say you don't have enough people to where one person has one role and you fill every role. And Jace, you've decided you want to be both the expedition leader and you want to be the explorer because you've got the skills to do both. You can absolutely do that. But
whatever gets the job done.
Yep. But for each role you assume after the first, you take a stacking -2 penalty to all checks.
So, say I am the expedition leader and the explorer. So I start my job as expedition leader at normal,
Nope.
or
-2.
everything.
Yep. Because you've assumed one job above the first, every check you make is -2. If you wanted to be the expedition leader, the explorer, and the lookout, every check you make for all 3 roles is at a -4.
Pays to have a nice built-out party then.
Yes. You can only have one person assigned to assigned to a role. So this is another one of those things where it pays for all of you to sit down in session 0 and not necessarily divvy up the roles, but make sure you have a well-balanced party. Make sure everybody has something that they can do so that no one person is doing it all and everybody else is just kind of sitting there. So, for the roles, first one up, Expedition Leader. And that is exactly what it sounds like. They're the one who organizes stuff, chooses where to explore, who does what. Their role is to make everyone else better at what they do. They make a roll against the territory's DC. So, for example, that previous one was 28 in the sample. That is very much a higher level DC. But 28, they would make their roll. If they succeed, everyone else gets a +1 bonus to their checks. And then degree of success, degree of failure, additional +1 or a -1, which can make this a penalty. So the explorer is the one who does the actual nuts and bolts of exploring. They're the ones that gain the exploration points based on their skill check. They make a roll against the territory's DC. Success gives 1 exploration point. And then again, degrees of success, degrees of failure, +1 for every degree of success, -1 for every degree of failure. If this would reduce the amount that you gain below 0, you subtract it for the total exploration points you have for that territory. Please note, a territory's point value can never go below 0. But that just represents y'all getting hopelessly lost, turned around, etc. So, lookout, exactly what it sounds like. Their role is to give other players either a bonus to their initiative if you guys get attacked, or to any roll made against a hazard. So things like, we're exploring these caverns and there's a lava flow that flowed right into our path. That's a hazard, for example. And then again, degrees of success and failure. The degrees of success and failure I'm not going to keep going over because they're all essentially the same in navigation mode. Increase the bonus by 1, reduce by 1, apply it as a penalty. So, next up is the forager. When you are a forager, when you've taken that role, you're basically looking for wealth. You will tell the narrator, alright, I am going to be looking for... We're in a cave, so I'm going to be looking for rare ore. Awesome. Narrator will go, okay, based on what you told me, give me a knowledge, physical sciences. Or you're looking for rare medicinal plants, knowledge biology, etc. They would make their check. If they succeed, they produce 1 wealth worth of the stated supplies. And then more or less based on their degrees of success, degrees of failure. Hunter, exactly what it sounds like. They're the ones providing food, providing rations. They hunt, hence the name. You succeed on your roll. You find enough resources to feed yourself and 2 other characters. Degrees of success increases the amount of people you can feed by 1. Degree of failure, reduced by 1. And then the cartographer. Cartographer can make checks. Basically, they are going to be crafting maps and travel logs and almanacs and atlases, various pieces of propaganda to get other people to come to this area once settlement mode is entered. So in our world, right, in the real world, think of things like Gulliver's Travels, or The Swiss Family Robinson, Robinson Crusoe, right? These were books written to kind of get people to want to visit these far off locales. That's what you're doing as the cartographer. You're creating maps, you're creating stories, you're creating the literature needed to entice people and to help people find their way. And then I didn't go over it at the beginning, but just like how vehicle combat uses a different actions per turn, and settlement mode uses different, navigation mode. Navigation mode, with you exploring, ask anyone who's done a lot of hiking, a lot of camping, all of that. Being angry isn't going to get that hike done any quicker. It's all about your mental, let's see it through. So, navigation mode, your actions per turn are based off resolve. With, again, if your resolve is between 1 and 2, you get 1 action per day. Navigation mode is done in days. So day 1, everybody roll. Day 2, everybody roll, etc. 3 to 5 resolve, 2, and then if you get your resolve to 6, you get that third action. Well, it's not... Excuse me. While it's not written here, I would point out every day, it's gone over in the lookout a little bit, but every day the narrator will make a check to see if a hazard pops up or if an enemy pops up. Basically, you roll 1d12, and based on what you got, determines, yeah, nothing showed up, an alpha echelon enemy showed up, etc.
Similar in other games to when you're taking a rest and, you know, you have your characters in shifts.
Yes, exactly. So, any questions on that? Alright, so at this point, we have actually gone over everything.
Inside of an hour.
Yeah. So we are going to hang out for just a couple minutes. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to speak up. Otherwise, we are going to hang out for the next 4.5 minutes so we can hit that hour mark. Yeah.
And if you guys want to see some of the proto art that we have for the Destinies.
Yes. Oop. Let me open the right tab. I'm not gonna lie, this is my favorite artwork. So,
Who doesn't love a T-Rex on a car?
That's right, T-Rex using a Jeep as a skateboard. But every one of the Destiny abilities are, as we went over before, grouped into the different tarot. So, the Chariot, the Fool, the Hanged Man,
I haven't gotten around to doing all of the entries yet, but
okay. I was just making sure it was... Oh, go ahead.
I thought I had the hanged. I thought I had the. Oh yeah, the art just takes a little bit to load.
Yes. This is, as Jace mentioned, all prototype art. This is not finalized, but this will give you an idea of where we're looking to be for when the book launches.
The themes and styles that we're going for.
Yes. All right, I am not made for these late night streams.
Our next stream should still be on Sunday at our normal time.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Our next stream, as Jay said, is this Sunday, the 22nd. And it is at 10 a.m. till noon. But there's the strength, the sun, the tower, and then the world.
The eventual plan for Foundry is to actually have really some cool dramatic effects when you use these abilities in the game.
Yes. That is another one of the things we are working on is the full Foundry integration. It probably won't be fully set up by the time the game launches, but it should be following shortly thereafter.
Work in progress.
Yes, work in progress. As mentioned before, this is a two-person team. We're doing everything we can to do a quality product, but we are just a two-person team. We don't have the resources of a Wizards of the Coast or a Piazzo. We're trying. We're working on it. We won't let you down. But at this point, we have been streaming for an hour. I don't see any other questions, so I would just like to again thank everyone who showed up for listening. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Again, I'm Alan from Mr. Bitey's Games and Hobbies, and with me is...
I'm Jace, Nemeton Studios.
All right, talk to you all next time.
Night.